Everyone is asking, how is this possible? From unknown to download festival headliners in just 2 years, it seems like Sleep Token have officially taken over the music industry. But it's left many people wondering, who the hell are these guys? Although it may seem like this mysterious group has emerged from the shadows out of nowhere, it's actually far more complicated. They are definitely not your everyday metal band, because trust me, this goes way deeper and will leave you questioning, where did this all begin? September 2016, the cryptic birth of a group veiled in shadow. 8 years ago saw the mysterious appearance of a haunting song known simply as Thread the Needle. Alongside featuring what many would view as a very unique musical style, this was the world's first glimpse of the figure that fans would come to know as Vessel. Dressed head to toe in black, accompanied by a strange white mask, and with any distinguishing marks covered by dark, heavy paint, it was clear from the inception of this band that anonymity would play a key part in their vision. And the evolution of changing face coverings would be even more important. Vessel's mask would become one of the most famous aspects of the group and undergo a number of changes throughout the years as Sleep Token themselves evolved. With each iteration, the band's lore would reach a whole new level of intensity, but that's something we'll get onto very shortly. A mere 3 months later, after the release of their debut, Sleep Token would drop their first EP titled One, featuring their original single and 2 more new tracks, Fields of Elation and When the Bow Breaks. Although the band had put a firm foot forward with their musical direction and its unique influences, it was actually someone else's work that would help them gain notoriety. In February 2017, the group took it upon themselves to release a complete rework of Outkast's famous Hey Ya, and it was unlike anything anyone would have expected. It turned the once upbeat sounding classic into a haunting piano-driven tearjerker, and this seriously caught people's attention, including that of Basick Records, who signed the band in a heartbeat and pushed them to release their sequel EP simply titled 2. Again featuring 3 new songs with cryptic videos depicting unsettling scenes and that previously seen unique white mask. It was at this time that the ever-growing Sleep Token following would get one of the most unique thing the band would ever offer them in their entire 8-year history. The first and last interview with the figure known as Vessel. Although not recorded on video, it would be this interview that would kickstart the ever-deepening lore of the band that fans would obsess over for years to come. When asked what is the story behind Sleep Token, the frontman responded, "How we got here is as irrelevant as who we are. What matters is the music and the message. We are here to serve Sleep and project his message." The lore deepened further with his next response. "He is everywhere at all times. Vessel encountered Sleep in a dream with promise of glory and magnificence if Vessel followed him." At this point, it became clear to many that throughout their previous 6 songs and videos, a story was being told of a master and a follower. Sleep and Vessel, one guiding the other with the pledge of majesty in exchange for his loyalty. This is a theme that will continue with the band for many years to come, evolving this lore with each passing album, but for now it was time for them to make their first ever appearance at the festival that they would famously later go on to headline. Appearing fairly low at Download Festival on the smallest possible stage known as Dogtooth, Vessel and his fellow bandmates we would come to know as 2, 3 and 4 could be seen wearing what many would describe as cult-like follower clothing. They didn't engage in verbal communication with fans in any way, further deepening the seriousness of their anonymity. This was a major part of the band's direction and would stick with them as their popularity increased. And they treated the crowd to what would become known as a ritual as music fans joined them in their worship of the deity Sleep. The band had firmly planted their unique vibe on one of the world's most famous metal festivals, and their journey to headliners had begun. Although Sleep Token had one final task before the release of their first major offering to fans, and that was the appearance of 2 brand new singles, Jaws and The Way That You Were, both deepening the lore of the group even further. But it was now time for Vessel and his followers to stamp their brand on the music industry in a way fans could only dream of. November 2019 saw the release of Sleep Token's debut album titled Sundowning, which would feature many of their most famous songs, including The Night Does Not Belong to God, The Offering and the incredibly beautiful Bloodsport. The album served to expand the lore of Vessel and Sleep and their relationship through its 55-minute runtime, allowing fans to further understand the meaning behind the group's haunting tracks. This would start a 4-year journey of a trilogy of albums crucial to the lore that the community would come to obsess over. And with it, Vessel's haunting bond with Sleep that would go through some dark turns before this 3-record ride was over. It was also around this time that key members of the group 2, 3 and 4 began adopting their famous black and white mask that they would become well known for. They would play a pivotal role in the band's identity for many years until a huge moment caused them to transition into a new era of stage wear, but don't worry, we'll get to that. Around the end of 2019, Sleep Token performed a number of sold out shows in both Manchester and London. Although incredibly impressive at the time, it's fair to say that a far more famous sold out show in the country's capital came 4 years later, and would become one of the most well known of the band's entire career for a very unique reason. Tragically for now though, the band's live performance schedule was about to hit a brick wall as the entire world was shut down. The pandemic caused the temporary end of in-person music events for a significant period of time, and no one was more heavily impacted by this than Sleep Token, with them having to cancel a whole host of festival appearances, including their long-awaited return to download after 2 years. This would have been the group's chance to make a major impact at the festival and to show numerous different generations of metal fans exactly who they were, but sadly for now, that opportunity would have to wait. All that fans had to keep them going in the meantime was an extended version of their debut Sundowning, featuring songs performed at a unique, intimate live performance known as The Room Below. As the year ticked on, Sleep Token's ever-growing following were clamouring for the chance to join the band in worship once again, but they would have to wait an entire year for their next ritual. 12 months later, and it was time for Sleep Token to make their long-awaited return to download with the festival pilot in 2021. One of the first opportunities for metalheads to return to the world of live music, albeit with a massively reduced capacity of only 10,000. But first, the band sent their fandom into meltdown as a mere 24 hours before their performance, they announced their second album, This Place Will Become Your Tomb, and dropped their new single Alkaline, which would go on to become one of the most popular of all time. With it now being 3 years since the group's download debut, they had of course managed to climb the ladder somewhat, making their presence known high up on the Avalanche stage. But it's important to remember that the number of people attending in 2021 was less than 10% of what was expected normally. And with the number of bands being reduced by nearly half, it's pretty clear that the group were not able to display their talents to the masses, leaving many metal fans having absolutely no idea who they were, which would of course become a major contributing factor as to why their announcement as download headliners for 2025 was so controversial. With the release of their second album coming a few months later in September, not only did it bring some songs that would go on to become setlist staples such as Hypnosis, Atlantic and The Love You Want, it also took the band's lore in a very dark direction, touching on serious themes of emotional abuse and failed attempts at taking your own life, all presented to the listener through the ever-deepening connection between Vessel and Sleep. The band took this record on tour later in the year on an 8-date run spanning numerous major UK cities, and although the venues may have been considered fairly small at the time, it was leading up to their explosion in popularity, and another stop on the way to that destination was another return to Download Festival in 2022. Once again gracing the Avalanche stage with their presence, this allowed Sleep Token to gather in worship with their fans, but also showcase their incredible back catalogue with a full capacity festival of over 100,000 people. It was a major moment for the group, but interestingly it would be their last performance here for a number of years, by which time their levels of popularity would have changed massively. In order for Sleep Token to reach the levels of respect needed to be classified as one of the biggest metal bands on the planet and earn the opportunity to headline Download, they needed to take things to the next level. And that's exactly what happened with the release of their third album, Take Me Back to Eden. This record catapulted them into the stratosphere, solidifying their already dedicated fanbase even further, but generating a whole new wave of support based on their now cult-like following developing on TikTok. An entire fresh generation of fans had arrived, and they began to delve headfirst into the lore of the band and Vessel's relationship with Sleep, which moved in a very different direction with this new album. Throughout the record's 12 songs, Vessel began to break away from his connection with Sleep, finally seeing it for what it is, a toxic relationship. This culminated in the album's final track, Euclid, which does a full circle and connects back to Sundowning's opening song, The Night Does Not Belong to God, replicating lyrics from that track to detail how Vessel is now ready to become someone new and acknowledge how far he's come. Many fans believe this to be the culmination of a trilogy of albums detailing Vessel's tortured bond with Sleep and the closing of a chapter in the band's history. This would be confirmed in the very near future in an incredible way, but first the group were about to gain some serious attention for a reason that no one would have expected. On the 29th of April 2023, Sleep Token would gather in worship once again with fans, this time in Australia. But this would be no ordinary ritual, it would go viral for an extremely odd reason. Whilst performing Atlantic, Vessel had to deal with a pretty intense distraction as an audience member let out what many would come to describe as an extremely sinister fart. Although not necessarily the attention the band were looking for, there is no doubt that it drew a whole host of new eyes to the group and their material, and was just another reason that their popularity continued to snowball. With Sleep Token ploughing ahead for a huge world tour, things were about to be taken to the next level as they allowed their followers to gather in worship for the most important ritual of their entire career, a sold-out show at London's Wembley Arena. 10 minutes. 10 minutes to sell out one of the biggest indoor music arenas the band had ever played. This incredible phenomenon may have happened months before, but it was now time for the result. And it would begin with one of the most insane changes in the group's history. As the band took to the stage, it was revealed that 2, 3 and 4's identical cult-like outfits were now a thing of the past as they debuted a brand new set of completely unique looks. They could all be seen wearing totally new masks and clothing that completely set them apart from each other. It would signal the end of an era with the group now looking forward to the future, and this show was the catalyst. And that was just the start, because this was to be the biggest Sleep Token gathering in the band's history, and one that would sadly become famous for a very unfortunate reason.
So, Vessel can't sing, but you guys can. So you guys need to sing with us. We're doing the set. He's staying on stage. Maybe he'll do a couple of lines here and there, but he's not well, so we're doing the set. You guys gotta be loud, okay?
And just like that, the most anticipated ritual of all time had encountered a serious problem. Vessel was unable to sing, and there was only one way to continue. The band would need their dedicated fanbase to step up and become the new member of Sleep Token. Although far from an ideal situation, amazingly this actually gave the fans a once-in-a-lifetime moment, which allowed them to become an even more important part of the show than they already were. It was all capped off with a tear-jerking rendition of fan favourite Bloodsport that hadn't been performed live by the group in over 2 years. The entire experience was one of the most beautiful moments in Sleep Token history, but something far more surprising was about to happen a mere 72 hours later. Appearing out of nowhere on YouTube as part of the Drumeo channel was the first ever recorded video interview with a member of Sleep Token. Although retaining full anonymity through his old cult-like outfit and using a voice changer, the band's drummer too discussed his musical influences and how he's developed his work throughout Sleep Token's years together. It was the first step into new territory for the band, and these steps would continue into 2024 as Sleep Token's biggest moment was now arriving. One final thing was needed to solidify this incredible band as an act worthy of headlining one of the biggest metal festivals in the world, being welcomed on stage as special guests to support the mighty Linkin Park. With Mike Shinoda, Emily Armstrong and the band making an earth-shattering return in 2024, they needed performers who could take their comeback shows to the next level, and that daunting task fell at the feet of Sleep Token, and they did not disappoint. Joining Linkin Park for a one-off ritual in Paris allowed Vessel and his bandmates to showcase their music to a whole new audience of potential followers. But there was no time to slow down as the group dived headfirst into their own sold-out tour across Europe and the UK. But even that couldn't reach the dizzying heights of the announcement that hit metal fans on November 12th. The Download Festival's social media pages sent people into a frenzy with the announcement of over 90 bands for the 2025 event. But it's fair to say that all eyes were on the most important slots, the headliners. Green Day filled Friday night and Korn were wrapping up the festival on Sunday, but that left Saturday night open for the most unexpected reveal in Download history, Sleep Token. Vessel and his followers 2, 3 and 4 had ascended the mountain and made it to the level of Download Festival headliners. It's fair to say that this decision was extremely controversial, with many claiming the band were not at that level and some even questioning who they were. But in the eyes of Sleep Token fans, it didn't matter. The performers they had worshipped and supported for years had finally made it to the top. They had done something that many thought was impossible, rising from avalanche stage performers just 2 years earlier to main eventing the biggest night of the entire festival. It was unheard of, with many fans vowing that the band would no doubt put on a truly special ritual to mark the event in style. Sleep Token's announcement of topping the bill at Donington Park went a step further during an interview with booker Andy Copping, who accidentally revealed a huge secret about the band that has left fans begging for answers. When talking to NME, he stated, "We're already on album number 3, and album number 4 should be out by the time download comes around." And seemingly with what appeared like a throwaway question, he had inadvertently announced the band's highly anticipated new record. And to add fuel to the fire, NME later removed that part of the interview, leading to speculation that perhaps Andy had slipped up and revealed something that was supposed to remain a secret. It seems only time will tell. And just like that, an 8-year journey from cryptic beginnings to a world-dominating takeover of the metal scene. Relatively unknown to festival headliners in just 2 years, all whilst holding on to an incredible sense of anonymity. Sure, internet sleuths may have unearthed exactly who the members of this unique band really are, but the choice remains with the fans as to whether or not they decide to keep the magic of the secret alive, and based on their dedication, it seems unlikely that will end anytime soon. It appears as if the future is truly endless for Sleep Token, and with their 2025 takeover already underway, it's clear that the band has risen from the shadows to take their rightful place at the head of the table: worship.